just going to feet first to the floor, making every big play for the Celtics today. Tatum knocks it away, trying to get it. Dives.
What a play by Dave Coward. Watch him dive for the ball right here. Look at this hustle. Knocked away.
What is up? First to the floor. Playoffs are here. The Celtics haven't played a meaningful basketball game in what feels like 24 years. I'm joined by Wayne Spooney, but we got a special guest, Barstool, Dan Greenberg. Greeny, how you doing, friend?
I'm nervous as shit. I'm anxious, nervous. I feel like we're all in the same boat at this moment in time.
We
Spooney,
got
how you
these
doing?
bums, dude. We got that. So I'm check it out tomorrow on Celtics blog. Got a series preview coming up. I watched a lot of the Heat Celtics game, the most recent one where Jimmy Butler did not play. So
Yes.
I feel like it makes a lot of sense to focus on that one. We got them. It's fine. Did you see how they played against
I'm not
Philly?
doing this shit
Yeah.
again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not
Can't
doing
keep
this
happening,
again.
Greeny.
I'm not doing it. Listen, in a year as important as this, I am
True.
respecting the opponent. I am respecting the basketball gods. I have seen Miami counted out and go into Boston, and the Celtics shoot 20% in the first quarter, and they can't stop Tyler Hero. I've seen it. I'm not doing it. This is too important. It's too important. Respect them.
Yeah, I'm with Spooney. It's like objectively, analytically, I understand there's a reason the Heat are like 17-1 underdogs to win the series. I get that. But this episode, this time last year, Greeny was on. We were previewing the Hawks series, and I was
I
like,
don't even know what I said. I don't even
"No,
know.
you were similar to this. You were like, I'm just taking it one win at a time." And like going into the year previous, like the 22 finals run, I was insanely confident, and then coming back to last year, I was very confident. I've learned my lesson as far as I'm just taking everything one game at a time. Like
Yeah.
I do think that the team has probably learnt their lesson as well. Like Tatum has specifically mentioned the Hawks series as like maybe taking things for granted, trying to get back to the finals and not skipping steps this year. So like I think everyone's going to be in the same boat where it's like I don't care who's playing for the Heat. It almost doesn't feel like it matters. This is of the 3 games we played against the Heat, we won all 3. Ironically though, the Tyler Hero game with no Jimmy Butler was the closest of the 3 games, Spooney.
Yep.
Yeah, good. That's what we want. We want the Heat thinking they're positive and they can beat us without Jimmy Butler. So I don't know. Like you know Jovic is gonna like come in and go like 6 or 10 from 3 in game 1.
Yeah, you just have to understand that, like, and I did the same thing, right? I look back, I'm like, damn, Celtics put up 124 a night, over 50 from the field. Every player was like over 50, 60% shooting. You can't put stock into it. You have to understand that, there's this heightened. How many times have we seen this? I mean, we saw it in game 7, right? We have all this momentum. We're feeling great. The Garden's juiced, and they can't make a shot to save their life. Things start to get out of hand. You get tense. I'm cautiously optimistic, right? Like there's the basketball side. It should be fine. The matchup problems, they haven't shown any signs of having an answer for Porzingis. Like logic, I'd be with you, Spooney, but this is dark magic that we are dealing with. This is not a normal situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Like analytically, like I don't have a big chunk of my brain that's smart, but the smart part of my brain is telling me like, this team should win. But like we've gone through the Caleb Martin thing. He shoots 35% from 3 on the season, which after shooting 50% in the conference finals, which just is so painful. But okay, so I looked it up. This is the tetralogy, not the trilogy. This is the 4th time the Celtics are playing the Heat, the tetralogy.
That's what it's called.
That's what it's called. According
right.
to apparently it just gets called the series usually after you get past the 3rd thing, but we're calling it the tetralogy. I think the question I want to ask, like, do we see Jimmy Butler? Because my brain is just like Embiid's fine, Giannis is going to be back, and Jimmy Butler's going to be fine. I know he's been ruled out for tomorrow's game specifically, but Greeny, do you think that we see Jimmy in this series?
Yes, they are the zone.
Yeah.
You can't kill him. Okay, he's gonna play. That's why it's important that you don't drop these first 2 games at home, because I think there's 2 or 3 days in between each. So it's like, is it inconceivable that he's back game 4? Like, I mean, who the hell knows? Maybe they just inject his knee with God knows what. Some Pat Riley blood or something. That
His
I
marrow.
don't know. That's another thing. I'm not ruling that out. I'm not ruling, I just think it would be silly to think, oh, he's not going to play. They're not going to be able to score 100 points and you're going to cakewalk, right? Like, if you look at this matchup, Tyler Herro's gotten whatever he's wanted in all 3 of these games. Over 24 a game. Decent, respectable percentages.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, things will be different now that he's the sole focus and you can really, take that away. But I just, there was only that one blowout in these 3 games, right? Like the Celtics on 2 occasions had to execute late down the stretch. Why wouldn't I think that that's going to have to be the case, this year? If they come out and they hit 10 threes in the first quarter and we can all exhale, like that would be great. But I think it's more realistic that we're at a 6 to 8 point game with 4 minutes to go, and you gotta close it out.
Yeah, I think we'll see. But I feel like Butler is like the target's probably like game 4, if I had to guess. And if it's 3-0 Celtics, he's not going to play.
Mm-hmm.
But if we drop one of these first 3 games, we're going to see Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, Butler on one leg or how hurt he is. Like, I'm not sure how beneficial he's going to be for the Heat, but I think mentally for the teammates and for the Celtics, it will probably have an impact in that way. Plus, he's going to grift his way to like 12 free throws on one leg. It doesn't matter. That's what Jimmy Butler does. So I hope we don't see him, because I think that will mean it's 3-0 Celtics and they're just like, screw it. Let's just pack it in. It's over. But yeah, it just got to end at some point, right? Like they can't.
Yeah, do you agree with that, right?
Like
is this the Sox getting over the Yankees, the Patriots getting over the Ravens, the 08 Celtics getting past the Pistons? They have that history where it's like, okay, at some point you have to overcome the boogeyman, right? And we all thought that happened in 2022, right? Like, you go in there and you win game 7, you're thinking, okay, the dragon is slayed. And that was not the case, which is why I'm entering this series thinking, it's just as likely that we're in for another 7-game series. And I know that there's nothing that supports that other than just our own life experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, outside of the devil magic, the PTSD, if we look at like the actual basketball stuff. So obviously there's no Jimmy Butler. The Heat have struggled to really, I mean, they got going in that Bulls game, but even in that first half, like if Chicago had been able to hit, like they missed so many wide open threes. I'd never seen so many threes go in and out. And again, that feeling of the devil magic is coming. But in that Sixers game, the only way they were able to generate offense was by Sixers turnovers. So I don't know, Greeny, I'll throw it to you. If I had to choose one, like a team factor, a team aspect of the matchup going in, is there one thing you're like, if they can control this, that's going to be really impactful?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's turnovers and points off turnovers. Easily, right? If you look at every single game of these, last 4 playoffs, I bet you over 15 turnovers, the Celtics never win. Under 14 turnovers, I would imagine they've either never lost or only lost once or twice, because the Heat's offense, like you said, it relies on the chaos, the transition, the points off turnovers, because if you force them to beat you in the half court, that's just not how they can, maybe go on stretches. But just like we saw in the third quarter, I don't know if it was the second or third quarter against the Bulls, where like they scored 11 points in 9 minutes of the second quarter or whatever. All the Bulls had to do was hit an open 3, and they couldn't do it. So when you play the Heat, it comes down to 2 things: keeping your turnovers low and making your open 3s when they go zone, and you break the zone and you swing the ball. If you can make your open 3s and you take care of the ball, they just can't generate enough points to stay with you if you're not giving away 20 to 25 points a night through turnovers.
Yeah, for me, it's the matchup of the Celtics offense versus the Heat defense, because you're right. That's how they fuel their offense, is on the defensive side of the ball. And if you score and make the Heat take the ball out of the basket and run their half-court offense, you are going to win that game probably by a lot. That's like we saw most of the Celtics wins against the Heat in the playoffs are blowouts, and then the Heat scrape by with like, a couple point wins or steal it in the fourth quarter, things like that. So the Heat have a legitimately great defense. I think they're a fourth or fifth.
I think it was fifth
per cleaning the glass. There, I think caused the fourth most turnovers as a defense. So that's definitely the big thing. But the Celtics especially I think KP is by far the most important Celtic for this series because he is the key to unlocking that Miami defense. When they go that junk 3-2 zone, get it to him on, either isolate, run pick and roll, pick and pops with KP, or get it to him at the nail. They have to, send so much help to him at the nail because nobody on that team can guard him one-on-one in the high post. And then he just picks out shooters, and that's how the Celtics can get them out of the zone. Then they're playing man. Then you just find Tyler Hero.
And you make them switch. And once you switch with Porzingis, they're dead. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, that's it. We're going to – so much of this series and pretty much every series they'll probably play is who's going to handle the 7'2" unicorn.
Right.
Because if you have to dedicate too much attention to him, well, now you're getting killed by your 2 All-NBA wings. So it's like his health, obviously we've been saying it since they traded for him. He is the one that unlocks everything, right? If you can't go zone against this team and you can't switch against this team, how do you defend them? And those are the only things that he can do to keep it close.
Yeah, it is funny. Like, we traded for Porzingis. Brad traded for Porzingis because he knew he was going to be good overall. But, like, because we had just lost to Miami, right? In, like, that first sit-down interview, Brad's like...
Yeah, I tweeted out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he tweeted
it. The only thing to talk about. He's like, and by the way, we played Miami and they just kicked our ass. It's like, yeah.
I'm not sure if you've noticed, we play Miami every year. So we may as well bring in the guy that should solve both the zone and the switching defense that has given the Jays like so many issues. Because that's the thing, right? Bam is one of the best defenders in the NBA. When he's allowed to switch onto whoever, the Jays, then he just causes them so many problems. He causes everybody, I don't care which star player it is, he gives them problems. But that means if he's guarding the Jays, I don't care who else is guarding Porzingis. It could be their next big is Kevin Love.
It's Kevin Love,
who's
right?
good though. Again, talking about respecting your opponent, he was huge in the last Sixers game in the regular season. He was like more impactful than Bam in the Sixers game as well, like because he stretches the floor. But if he's on Porzingis at this stage of Kevin Love's career, I am very comfortable with that. So the turnovers is definitely the number one thing, and getting those shots on goal, because like even if you're getting threes, as long as you're getting threes, and the reason we shoot so many threes, part of that is like you're able to set your defense. Even if you're missing those shots, if you're taking threes, it's so much easier to get back. So getting shots on goal, not turning the ball over, and then offensive rebounds. Like it's not something that the Heat have been really good at, but they were really good at it against the Sixers. The Sixers are bad at rebounding. The Celtics were 7th in defensive rebounding on the season. It fell off from like February on. I do think that was just kind of the season was like the defense and the rebounding.
We're 12 games up on the East.
Yeah. Like I believe in this team's ability to rebound. Like Jayson Tatum, when he gets to the playoffs, turns into one of the best rebounders in like at his position in the NBA. So I do think they're going to be locked in from that perspective. So rebounding would be the other thing.
Yeah, their rebounding is weird because it's like their defense is so good that they force so many misses that their offensive rebound percent, like that stuff is high. So it's like, man, they're at like the bottom of the league in offensive rebounding, but they're number 1 in the league in total rebounding. It's like, well, yeah, because they're forcing so many misses. And you got to think the Heat are looking at this like, I'm envisioning their approach is going to try to be, let's recreate last year's Eastern Conference Finals. We need to match the Celtics on our three-point volume, and they're going to live with the results, right? They need Tyler Hero to make 3, 4, 5 threes. They need Duncan Robinson to be taking 8, 9, 10 threes because the Celtics are going to shoot them because of the zone defense, right? Like you're going to see a lot of pump it into Porzingis. They're going to collapse. He's going to swing it. There's going to be one pass, and it's going to be a catch and shoot 3. So that's why I'm just thinking if this is a game where you get Miami hot to start, the Celtics are maybe slow to make a basket to begin the game. Like those are just the type of black voodoo magic things that we are used to, where it's going to come down to if you're forcing all of these misses, right, but you're giving up offensive rebounds, right? We saw it in all of their losses to end the season against the Hawks, against the Knicks. They were giving up 15, 16, 17 offensive rebounds. You're just asking for a prayer Caleb Martin second chance three that's contested, that he makes, and he's going like this in your face.
Oh, I hate that celebration.
Just to avoid it.
Yeah, dude, it's all about the possession battle because the Heat can't keep up with the Celtics offense if we just like straight up one shot per one shot. They need to generate more looks than the Celtics do in order to keep up with their offense, but they're friggin' good at doing that, which is what's annoying about them because it feels fake, but it's very real. They've been doing it since Jimmy Butler got there. They've been doing it for the last 5 years when we played them in the playoffs. So if the Celtics take care of the defensive glass, and the Heat are so big on taking away the initial like early first read, that first pass where it's like, oh, there's my escape valve right there. I know it's always wide open. The Heat do not give that to you. They like abandon the weak side defensively. So you need to like read that quick and make that like cross court pass to the open shooter in the corner every single time. And that's what's tough because your muscle memory is not to make that pass. It's like, okay, here's the quick swing. Oh, I'll hit the guy in the pop, or, I'll dump it down. But those aren't there against the Heat, and that's why they just play defense differently than every other team. But that corner shot is there. It's wide the fucking open against the Heat. And make that pass.
The biggest difference will now be, can Jaylen figure it out?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
If that first initial read's not going to be there, how many times last series did we see him try to beat his man, drive into traffic? Like, if he's going to be able to understand how the defense is going to rotate and where his reads are going to be, and he can keep his turnovers low, then I think we'll all feel a lot better. I just think there's that just unknown. We have to see it. He talked about, learning from it and getting better and all that shit. And he was great during the year. Well, everybody always knew it. The only thing that mattered about his season was how he played once they eventually faced Miami. And while there's no Jimmy Butler, like, Caleb Martin was able to guard him and cause turnovers. I don't think, Terry Rozier or whoever is the same sort of pesky defender that Lowry was, but like, it's not going to shock me if he pokes the ball loose here or there, just because that's how things tend to go.
Yeah, I think, that's a great call. Eric Weiss in the chat, the post-ups, something that they did a lot of through the first like half, two-thirds of the season, felt like they kind of put it in their back pocket and were like, okay. And that's like something that I don't know why we weren't doing it with Jaylen before, but when you talk about turnovers, when he's posted up on the baseline, that's just so much easier for him to not turn the ball over. And he's become so effective down there, whether it's the fadeaway or he just like takes these powerful dribbles and then goes to like the left or right hand with these little floaters. That is definitely something that he did not have and not something that he focused on in last year's playoffs. There's just something we got to hit quickly here from Ben in the chat watching from home. So we always lose when ex-Celtic stars are in attendance.
I agree.
And so I'm not sure everyone's seen. I've got the clip here from the Big Four are all together at the moment.
This force took the court a lot. We played big.
I'm gonna say it out loud. We were fucking shit up. Hell yeah. That's right. I said it.
Which is objectively awesome. I think I found my new playoff battle cry before every game or after every win is like just Chiefs saying we're fucking shit up. So love that.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like the ones that come to mind, like the KG retirement. I know like Jaylen, when they were playing the Mavs, Jaylen dunks on Maxi Kleber, high fives KG in the crowd. They lose to a Luka Doncic game winner. I'm blanking on the other ones at the top of my head.
Pierce's, they lost by LeBron blew him out by like 30
That's right.
on his jersey retirement. I'm with you. I think everyone's always like, oh, Larry Bird's got to come back. No, it's like
never.
Like, jinx. Like watch it on TV.
Don't even let his ass in Connecticut.
Yeah. No, I'm anti. Like it'd be cool. He'd get a huge, pop in the crowd, but like I can't remember the last time they won a huge game when all the legends were back in the building. So
this is why this season's different, though. All right, we're playing the Heat in round one. We're gonna cut off the head of the Devil Magic. Larry Bird is like left French lick and come to Boston for the first time since he's retired. I'm pretty sure.
I want to know what was his appearance fee to get him to come.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I haven't been able to get him in the city in 40 years, and here he is at Dick's Sporting Good.
I know, right? This is a good point from RJ. Maybe we should invite Patino to the arena. That we would
No,
do that.
Reverse jinx.
Yeah, do the reverse.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. So, defensive game plan, initial matchups. I know in the Discord, people were kind of playing around with who we wanted certain players. Like, so Rozier is out for tomorrow.
Okay.
And Jimmy Butler's out for tomorrow. And Cornette is out for tomorrow with a calf thing, which
fucked.
I didn't.
I mean, I'm considering him out for. I don't think we're
Anyway.
A strained calf. That's the Giannis injury, and his was 2 weeks. So
I agree, which is a bummer because it'd be nice to have him just in case someone gets into foul trouble, obviously. But then we have Tillman. But so kind of top 8 guys, initial game plan. I'm a D White on hero guy. I know Jaylen has been the guy taking a lot of these matchups. I wonder if we do see that just because of wanting to set the tone early. Yeah. But D White is because Tyler Hero doesn't really create in isolation. That's not really something he's really capable of, but he's awesome in the pick and roll. And Derek's just he's the best screen navigator on the team.
Well, that's going to be the thing, right? I don't think it's going to come down to who's guarding Hero. It's going to be how do the Celtics handle Bam's moving screens to get around him? Because that's how Hero gets into the paint. That's how he comes off curls into his pull-up three. So it's I think you're going to see Drew and him interchange. It's just going to be, who's having a better, who's executing the screen navigation better. I'm still nervous over Drew's shoulder. I don't think we've really seen him fight over screens like he was pre-injury, and we know what Bam is going to do. So I just, I'm nervous of that.
I have a crazy idea. All right. The Jays on Hero and Bam, because their offense is going to be Bam, Hero, pick and roll, handoff game. Those two are awesome at it, man. They have really good chemistry. So when they run that, you can just switch it every time because both Jays can handle Bam in isolation and they can handle Hero in isolation. And it's then where do you go if they shut that down with the switch game? And KP's roaming off, whoever, Jovic or whoever, their fifth starter helping at the rim. So I think that.
I like that idea. As long as you're going to switch it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you switch it every time and it stops you from having to get over the top on the Bam illegal screens that he sets 100 of a game. And you don't have to worry about trying to contest Hero on rear view contests and stuff like that, because that doesn't really bother him. If he gets to his spot, he's probably going to make the shot.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Spoonie. I hadn't thought of that because I've just been you want KP near the rim and they have shooters, but you can. I even hesitate to say it. You can put him on Caleb Martin. He's not the most willing shooter.
You should.
No, we're not doing it.
I know.
Next Caleb Martin. Okay?
Yeah, so not that, but that's what I'm saying. So, but then so Hero, and then Duncan Robinson, who's questionable, but I'm guessing he played in the Bulls game. It becomes tricky of where do you put KP, right? Because he can kind of hang with Caleb Martin and stuff, but the reason he's been excellent on defense and why the Celtics defense has been great is because he's been one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. So I think maybe you hold the Jays on Bam and Hero as in your back pocket, maybe for the fourth quarter or for later in the series. I do think you just want to go straight, play your drop coverage and let Derek White and Jaylen kind of go at Tyler Hero on both ends, but specifically, trying to get around those screens. So
can I just say real quick? My mom, UMass alumni, did not get that the Rick Pitino thing was us hating on him. Rick Pitino, go UMass. Yes, thank you, Mom. Anyway, go ahead, Jake. Sorry.
I don't know. Any other things from a defensive matchup perspective you guys want to hit? Otherwise, I'll move to next thing.
Now, do you think that Missoula stays with his Tatum coming out at 6 minutes? Do you think we'll see the same type of minute split, rotation split, where it's Tatum and Drew out first, and then they close the first quarter with the Jays and the Whites? It's usually how they've staggered those minutes, but then again, does it depend on what Spoelstra does, right? Do you think they try to? I guess my question is more: do you think Joe forces Spo to adjust to him, or do you think we see them play differently than what we saw all year?
Yeah, I think without Butler, that decision to just go with your normalish rotation, obviously going to stretch guys for longer minutes in the playoffs. But I think that's a lot easier decision to make because Butler is the mismatch killer, right? Like if Pritchard's out there or Hauser's out there, I don't really trust either of those guys on Jimmy Butler. But obviously, if he's not playing, I feel a lot more comfortable just saying, like, go out there, juice the offense, kill their bench. So I actually do, at least for game one, think he'll probably stick to his kind of standard Drew and Tatum out early and get either like Hauser and Horford in there, and then let, Tatum, Drew, and the white dudes get out there and just kind of score 30 in 7 minutes or whatever crazy shit they can try to do against this Heat zone.
Now, do they start Bam and Love, or Love comes off the bench?
Love typically comes off the bench.
Okay,
because I was going to say Jovic recently.
Jovic has been starting for them. Yeah.
So his size doesn't warrant double bigs for you, right? What would you do if they have minutes of Love and Bam? Do you stay one solo big? Do you maybe unleash some Porzingis Al minutes in those lineups?
I think we'll definitely see Al Porzingis lineups. That's been a really good lineup and something that Joe went to a lot more later in the season. Like the minutes for that, I think partly ticked up a lot because we were resting guys, and so there was just a guy out, so he ended up being in that a bit more. But I love that lineup, and I have been someone that's like, I wonder if in some scenarios that's actually going to be our best five. Like you just have so much size, and Horford on this like retirement youth like generation program that he's been on has just looked so good all year long, and I trust him to be able to.
So who do you sit?
Well, that's the. I mean, it's Drew is the answer, but like, is Joe going to be willing to go with the hot hand, or like if Jaylen's having a turnover problem, it's like you go double bigs and you put Drew in there instead. Like that could be something that ends up happening politically. I can see how that is tough, but I do think that like the sacrifice thing has been something they've talked about all year. It looks like it's going to impact them all from an awards perspective as well, which
ain't that the truth?
has been crazy. Which I think feeds into everything though, and it feeds into them being willing to be okay with those sorts of decisions. I think we'll see it. I'm sure Spo will go to that double big lineup. I do think it's a Pritchard series now that Jimmy's out. Like I was like, Pritchard can play in the playoffs. There's two matchups I don't like him in. It's the Heat matchup. He can't play if Jimmy Butler's on the court. And he basically can't play in the Nuggets series because Jamal Murray is so good.
You just target him.
And then Jokic is out there just doing the same thing. So, but now, like you talk about not turning the ball over and create spacing, and like Hero can shoot over the top of him, but he can get around screens and stuff. I think this is actually a legit Pritchard series, which is great news.
I'd love to know. I forgot to look it up, but I'd love to know. I know his percentages were good. I can't remember. Hold on, I want to see. I'm going to check my. Because I bet you in their 3 games, I bet you he was very effective. Let me see. Not really. 7 points a game, but he shot 61% from the floor and 57% from 3. So, not a ton of volume, but he was efficient. So, given the way he's been playing, I would hope it would be a Pritchard series because who on the other end is staying in front of him, defensively. I think you're going to be able to see him if they aren't in zone in his minutes, which why would you be? Because they'll just put him off ball, and now he's a 57% shooter getting open looks. So if he's able to get into the paint and there's no Jimmy Butler there to roam, I don't know. I think it could be a big Pritchard sort of pulling his Nash dribble craziness and being effective that way. But it's going to come down to the shooters. Got to make your open threes. No turnovers. Make your open threes, and it'll be a quick series.
Yeah, for sure. And if Pritchard's going against that bench when Bam is out, when we're on offense too, like Kevin Love has to play drop. There's nothing he can do. And Pritchard can crush drop coverage with his pull-up shooting. And then if Love comes up to like the level of the screen, I now trust Pritchard to get downhill and either make a play or finish at the rim too, which is not something you could really say for the rest of his career. So definitely a PP series. I want to see a big veiny PP all series long, just crushing the Miami Heat. Yeah.
Hey, he's been good. He's been good in round 1 before. I think it would be great. And he was so good. Just like March and April, that's Pritchard's time. And it definitely felt like he took a real leap this year, kind of across the board. Like the playmaking stuff was not something that he had before. And so if he can create some advantages and then spray out to the rest of these guys, like, yeah, get that PP spraying out, and we'll be feeling good. All right, we'll hit the ad read here, and we'll hit some more broader playoff stuff.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. March is over, but the biggest moments of college basketball tip off in the month of April. Be a part of the action on Prize Picks for both men's and women's college basketball. And get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. You can even make the play-in rounds seem interesting since we all know the Celtics won't be there. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. Personally, I'm looking at Derek White more on points because they are criminally low, and we all know Derek White is going to come up big in the postseason. So download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100.
All right. Is there anything else on the Heat series? My only other question was going to be how do the Heat extend it? But I feel like we know. We touched on it, right? If it's that you don't take care of the possession battle, the turnovers, and look, and if they fucking shoot 44% from 3 again, and we shoot below 30%, then that's going to even the battle. We are far more equipped this year than last year to handle the shooting variance, which has been nice. So let me ask
you both this. On what level, what percentage? I mean, the big question for the 2 offseason acquisitions were, can Drew beat his playoff dropper reputation? And what does Porzingis look like in a series that actually has some juice, right? We haven't seen these guys perform as Celtics on this stage. The last 3 years, in terms of true shooting percentage, Drew Holiday was under 50%. He has to, in my opinion, right? If you look at last year or the last 3 postseasons, Smart was never under 59% true shooting percentage, and nobody wanted him shooting. So for me, that's sort of the bar. But we haven't seen Holiday be anywhere close to that, albeit an entirely different role. So factoring that in, I think him and KP are just as much of a question mark in this series because we sort of know how the Jays are going to respond to Miami because we've seen them do it so many times. We know
so many times.
Right. We know what Horford is going to be like, but those two, we have no idea. And I think that is going to be my biggest concern for the entire playoff run until we see it, because if he throws up a 41% true shooting percentage, even as the 5th option, that's going to be a problem because, it was a problem for Milwaukee. It's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah, I think efficiency is such a different thing when you're basically the primary ball handler for a team that kind of Milwaukee outside of Giannis is not a great offensive team. Even in some of their years where they were better than this year they're an amazing offensive team, but it's basically because of Dame and Giannis. And Drew's obviously not as good as an offensive player as even this version of Dame is. So I think he's way overstretched as your second option, but with this Celtics team, he can basically occasionally run a pick and roll, occasionally post up a mismatch, and then he's basically just shooting corner threes. And if the dude's just gonna miss wide open corner threes, which he might, because you're right, Greeny, he has missed open shots in the playoffs a lot. Yeah. But I think his job is so much easier on the Celtics team that I anticipate his efficiency will be just fine. I think, to me, KP is even the bigger question mark just because we ask so much more of him on the offensive end. And we saw him kind of struggle with the refs, I guess, just in March 1st. We're okay, we're calling it the playoffs for the rest of the season. And he did have some games, especially when he was coming back from injury, where he didn't look great. And a lot of his highly efficient games after that were when the 3 was going down. Which is going to be important, but we want to see him get back to the unbeatable post-up player. That's what we need from him. And I think there's a big question mark whether he's going to be able to bring that into the playoffs, but I think he's up for it, dude. I really do.
Yeah, it's more just I'm more weary of okay, it's the first time, it's the first game, it's the first time in the Garden. They're so overamped.
Oh yeah.
Now you have a 2 of 10 start. And you're down 6 at the half. Though not that it's going to oh my God, they might never show up. It's more just going to be I don't think you can give the Heat a sliver of life, because you give them a sliver, that's how they steal a game. Then they steal game 1, you're pressing in game 2, and maybe you go cold, and now you're going down to Miami with your series. And you know what I mean? It's like, those are kind of the neurotic worries I have at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep.
Of course.
And it's just like, what could possibly, if I had to envision what could go wrong, it's he's not getting the jump shooting foul on his, turn and face jump shot in the paint. Love's going to be there with his hands up. There's going to be contact, and that's not going to be a foul. He's going to then get struggling. Then he'll maybe start settling for 35-foot threes. That'll be short. Like, there are ways where we've seen, them sort of disappear at times. This is now, it's like, you can't do it now. Like, we are at the point of the season, like, this is why we traded for you both. You have to, you have to come through.
So, yeah, those are the two guys with question marks, at least on this specific team. With Drew, I mean, look, he won a title. Like, he went through the battles. Like, they've picked him for the Team USA again. Like, he has the mental fortitude to handle struggles. Like, he went through it efficiency-wise in that Bucks finals playoff run, ended up coming up huge in both the Hawks and Suns series. I just went and looked back at the last 2 years of catch and shoot 3-point percentage for Drew Holiday, because I think that's what you want to look at. So last year he was at 31%. Obviously a small, but
not good.
They played 5 games. They played 5 games.
5 games.
Okay.
The year before he was 41. He was 40.7%.
Very much better. Much better.
That's all that matters.
That's better, right? And then if I look at the finals run, he was 31.5%.
Not great.
Catch and shoot threes.
We're due for a good season. It's every other season.
Yeah,
Last
exactly,
year was
right?
terrible, so we're good. Yeah.
But
concern.
I would say the key here is, though, like the volume is at like 2 per game on the Bucks. So I'm just looking at the last 3 years. Like, he just wasn't really taking them versus like they're all of his shots this year. So I'm like, you talk about reps, and RJ in the chat here was like, was Drew Holiday focusing on his corner 3 like he was this season? Like, that's what he's become. That is his specialty now. Like, we don't need him to shoot 60% from the corners. If he does, we will probably cakewalk to the finals. But like, can he just be in the high 30s, and that's going to be everything?
Right. And I mean, listen, it comes down to the fact of the matter is they brought him in as the upgrade over Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart was a playoff riser. He has to show us that he can be that better option, better ball security, better late game decision-making, no turnovers, hitting your open threes. Like, these are the things he's done all year. The only thing that's been the question for him is what we said when they traded for him is when they get to the playoffs, his offense literally craters like nothing you've ever seen. And all year we said a different role is going to mean a different result. Well, here we go.
It has been so far. So that is good, and I think we are more equipped to handle that. So okay, this is what you're saying is true of not just this Heat series, but the whole playoff run as a whole. So this is a question for the whole playoffs. Let's say the Red Auerbach genie comes to you tonight. This is the night before the Celtics playoff run. The Barstool genie, we could say as well. So he comes to you. There's 5. There's 6 main Celtics. I'm going to give you 6 options here. You can guarantee one of these things happen, and that's going to be the most impactful thing for the Celtics playoff run. Okay. So Tatum maintains his shooting splits from the regular season, 60.5%, true shooting. Jaylen averages 2.2 turnovers per game. So these are like realistic. Yeah. He was at like 3.1 in last year's playoff run.
Okay.
Drew Holiday has a true shooting of 58% or above. KP hits his 2-year post-up points per possession average. So between the Wizards season and this season, 1.24 points per possession is what he's averaging across 2 full seasons, which is absurd. Al Horford hits his career 3-point percentage, which is 39.6. Incredible. And Derek White is Derek White is aggressive. Aggressive Derek White. I don't have a number for Derek White because I don't think it matters. I just need Derek White being like the guy who believes he can take over at any moment.
You know it when you see it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So which is the most indicative of their success?
Or whatever you want. That's what's going to help you sleep better tonight, knowing one of those things is going to happen?
It's Tatum. It's his efficiency. I think once you get to this time of year, to win a title, your best player has to go supernova. You can have all the 1 through 6, 1 through 8, go down the list. For the team to win the title, the best player has to be the best player in the world. Jokic did it, Steph did it, Giannis did it, LeBron did it. Like, that's just to get to the top of the mountain. That's the final test. So if you're telling me that Tatum throughout the entire playoffs is going to have a 60% true shooting percentage, that probably tells me he's averaging close to 30 a night and he's making 3-4 threes a game. If he's doing that, the Celtics can't lose. Because you have to focus so much attention on a guy with a 60 true shooting percentage. Now aggressive Derek White is getting his. Now, so I think Tatum, at the end of the day, things still end with your best player. So if I can pray to this genie that he go up a 7 for 24, 1 for 10 from 3, I think I would go with that.
Dude, it's impossible to pick, but I think I would go with KP post-ups, just because it is like such a new weapon. It's a dimension for the Celtics. I was going to take Tatum, but Greeny already took it. So this is my number 2.
To be honest, I was debating between him and Horford, because if Horford's making his threes, it's
dude.
I was debating between KP and Horford too. So, but that's a dimension of the Celtics offense that hasn't existed in the previous, like, I don't want to even call them playoff failings other than really last year, because they've been ahead of schedule for so long. People think they're failings, but they're really not. It's just a young team learning how to win. But I especially think late in games, that is something we can go to that teams just don't really have an answer. Like, how do you guard a 7'3" dude who's scoring an offensive rating of 124 on post-ups? And it's not like a post-up is some complicated offense you have to run to like get him in the right spot. Like, he can just kind of come off a screen, stick his ass out there and catch the ball, and all of a sudden you have 124 offensive rating. So I think that's a weapon late in games we could go to if we can guarantee he's going to continue that efficiency. It's a dimension that hasn't existed in previous Celtics teams. So I think I'd probably go with that one.
I just think Spo's going to take. That's going to be the thing Spo takes away. I think he's going to try it every time. He's going to say, "You're going to have to beat me with threes, and I'm going to take my chances."
Yep.
Yeah, well, you saw what they did against the Sixers. Like, they went to that zone, and it was like they had 3 guys just around Embiid. They could not get the ball to him. I do think the Celtics are just overall, like, the IQ on the Celtics across the board plus the passing ability is completely different. Like, they just don't have good passers on the Sixers. Like, Nick Batum's their best passer, I'm pretty sure. Like, You got Kelly Oubre and Tobias Harris trying to fucking throw entry passes, and they just can't do it. Like, KP's really good at going up high and getting that pass at the top, and then just, I mean, he had that controlled tip in that Thunder game right to D White. And so I think that, like, you throw it up there and he catches it and he's able to make those easy passes. I do think you're right though. Spo's going to play that game, and we're just going to have to knock those shots down.
Need your open threes. That's it.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm torn between Tatum, because and just statistically, right, he's going to have your highest usage. Yeah, Muzz in the chat here said the same thing. Like, just give me the guy with the highest usage with the good efficiency. But I think KP, like, he has limited playoff experience. He's played in about 10 playoff games. The first Mavs series, he was really good. Second one, not so good. And that was, felt like kind of a Mavs implosion type thing, and he's just a different player at this point.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's tough because, like, mentally he's more mature, his game is more developed. So that's what makes it so tough, is like we're going off something that's like a new version that hasn't A, been in a playoff series, and B, been in a playoff series where the expectation is you win the freaking title, right? Like, we're not hey, if we could just break through the second round, that'd be great. It's like, he needs to deliver on the highest of stakes, and he just hasn't had to do it yet. Doesn't mean he can't. It just means he hasn't yet.
Yeah, I think I would probably lean the KP. If he can go 1.24 on points per possession, because I think they're going to raise the volume of how much they're going to that as well. Like, they barely used it in the fourth quarter in the clutch this year, which is either just bad coaching or because they don't. or they don't want to. And I mean, I'm sure you watched the Part of My Take interview with Joe Mazzulla. I've never felt better about Joe Mazzulla going in to anything. Dude,
He's psychotic. It's the best.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He's awesome. So, like, I'm a believer. Like, we talked about it. The JJ Redick pod did, like, an old man in the 3 thing. And, like, they basically discussed, like, that exact thing. And, like, how it's very odd that they haven't gone to it. And JJ was kind of just, like, smirking, being like, I'm pretty sure they know that's something they should be going to. The D White KP pick and roll.
Yeah, didn't it say they ran it like 9 times all year or something like that? I heard that and I was like, So I thought the same thing. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, nobody is seeing what we're seeing, that this is literally an unstoppable set. So,
so it's either they're all just lose their minds in the fourth quarter and they forget to do it, which I guess is technically possible, or they all see the numbers and they also have eyes and they're going to go to it more in the fourth quarter. All right. So I guess last question, and then we'll pick the rest of the playoff series, but is there a result that you can live with that is not, like, if we don't win the title, can you live with, like, if we lose to the Nuggets in 7 games or 6 games and Jokic is just like, okay, he's a top 10 player of all time and the Celtics played well, but it was like, it's just nothing you can do about it? Because for me, that's the only result I can kind of probably walk away from the playoffs being like, that's okay. That's life.
No. I mean, I just look at it through the lens of NBA history. Every single team in the history of the NBA who has done what the Celtics have done this season has gone on to win the title. I don't care who you play. Your expectation is you should win the title. You have the 4th or 5th best point differential ever. Every team ahead of you and after you won the title, right? You crossed over and passed the 72 Bucks. So every team that has at least an 11.36, whatever the Celtics have, you do that for point differential, you've won the title. Every team that has a plus, 15 home differential has won the title. You have the best offense of all time. You have the best net rating of all time. Like, I think it's okay to be like, if they don't win the title, it's not only a failure, it's arguably the biggest choke job in the history of the NBA, because you will be the only team in NBA history who has not won the title after doing what they've done. That's like literally what's at stake. You're either cemented as one of the greatest teams of all time, or you're cemented as the greatest choke of all time. It's like we've never had, even the Garnett Big Three didn't have that weight of possibilities, right? But like, given what they've done all year, no loss would be justifiable, even if it's to Jokic in Game 7 on a half-court heave. I just not accept
Come on, Greeny.
I can't do it. I just want them to be just normal like everybody else in the history of the league.
Just be normal, please.
That's it. I don't want special treatment. I don't need them to overachieve. Like, just do what every single team has done, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't know how I follow that, but I will say that. I mean, so like rationally, I want to be like, yeah, if they lost in 7 to Jokic, I'd be okay. I wouldn't be okay, dude. Like, even last year, I was like, there's a way we could like be okay with this if we don't win the title. This year, Greeny's right. Like, they gotta fucking win this season. They're so awesome. And like, okay, Tatum, Brown, like, they're only gonna keep getting better. They're not super old. Like, we got KP injury luck this year. Yeah. Drew Holiday is going to be 34 next year. Al Horford's going to be 38. Like, there's not a
better
clock.
Again.
Yeah, there's not a clock on the core guys, but there is a clock on like the tertiary guys who are super important to how fucking awesome this team was. So like, nothing is guaranteed. This feels like the year. It's going to be the damn year. They're winning the title. Fuck 7 games. Fuck Jokic. Beat him in 5.
Like Jake, how you're feeling is how I probably would say I felt in 2022, right? Because they finally broke through. You lost to an all-time player in Steph Curry. You know, it was your first time there, but at least you had broken through. Well, now that they have made a finals, it's like making the finals is no longer the goal. Like, that's for the Sixers fan. That's for the other fan to dream about, right? Like, now that they've checked that box, it's time to check the final one because it's the only thing left.
Man, like,
Please.
I think I'm just protecting myself and like building like that in my head. It's like, okay, if this Celtics team, if our destiny is to just be really awesome part of this era, but we just lose to top 10 players in the finals every time. That's just the destiny.
I mean, listen, this team has caused me a lot of pain in my life.
Same, dude.
I do not think I cannot imagine the pain that this will cause me.
Are we Clyde Drexler? Is that what we are? We're Clyde Drexler.
I mean, well, that's shit. You want to get crazy. Like, think of what this means for Tatum if he wins the finals MVP.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Like, think of the legacy type discussions that are in the balance with this playoff run. Like, that's a whole nother side of the coin where it's like, for the rest of our lives, nobody can tell me anything. When it comes to Jayson Tatum, if he wins the title by 26.
The trolls are done.
You know, like, that's it. I am bulletproof for the rest of eternity if they just win. Like, do it for me and my online persona.
That's
please.
right.
Like, that's all I care about.
Like Tatum going 39-5 on 62%
Yeah.
true shooting in a 6-game finals win, dude. It's over.
Please.
The conversation's done.
Please. I know. I like you talk about all the net rating stuff, like, and like I guess this is just like if they go and do it, then you're right. Then they are one of the best teams of all time. It's just like I'm not sure. Like as good as all the numbers are, and as like I had one of the time of my life. That's why I almost didn't want the playoffs to start because like just winning 80% of your games is just fantastic and stress-free W's. It's a good time, but like I'm not sure can I put them mentally in the same category as like the KD Warriors? But it's like,
yeah,
maybe they are. Maybe if they go through and do it, then I hope they own me. Please own me.
Please own me.
please own me. All right. Before we get out of here, we'll just like I just wanted to, because we hadn't had a chance to really pick the series yet because the play-in tournament's awesome, but like this is why we kind of had to wait till today to do this podcast, is because like we didn't fucking know who the Celtics were playing until a day before they actually play the series. Which when you add that to the fact that Celtics stopped really trying in March, it feels like we haven't like known what's to expect. We've just been playing the seedings game for 12 hours every day. We have some of the results already here, but I'll throw quickly to you, Spoonie. Cavs Magic go down 0-1 today, and kind of important, like that in theory will be the series that we see next round. I picked the Magic, not feeling great about that after game one, but we know not to overreact to game one.
Yeah, I think I picked Magic in 7. I mean, this is a toss-up series to me. I don't really think either of these teams are great. I do think Donovan Mitchell's the best offensive player in the series, and that might be what it comes down to, period, because they're both great defensive teams and both struggle to score. So I think I'd probably still stick with Magic in 7 because they couldn't get anything to go today, and they kind of hung tight for a little bit. So I don't know. This is probably the biggest toss-up series to me, period. Except maybe the next one that I see on the run sheet. But I'll stick with Magic in 7 just because that's what I went with.
Oh, I think Cavs in 6. I just think it's a year early for the Magic. Fair. I think this is, we talked about it a little before, this is their classic growing pains type playoff run. I think, they just don't have the offense. I think playoff Donovan Mitchell is a clear playoff riser. He's just lethal. I think they're healthy. And, I think that they're motivated by given what happened last year. They have the look of a team that's like, okay, we're not a first round out this year. We may not go further than that, obviously, because, they'd be playing the Celtics in round 2. But it feels to me like, you're going to get one last goodbye Donovan Mitchell series before he heads to South Beach later this summer, and that'll be that.
Yeah, I definitely want to flip my pick after watching game one today. That's for sure. Donovan Mitchell's clearly the best player in that series. I know Paolo was really good this year, but yeah, the offense, they looked really young, deer in headlights vibes. I'm going to pivot away from that one, Spoonie, but Knicks Sixers, just because we just watched that one. I picked the Sixers before today. I still feel okay about the Sixers after today. Like I've been saying the Knicks just tick all the boxes of a regular season team to me. The problem is the matchup wise, the offensive rebounding, which is like it's such a Knicks thing, and they just destroyed them on the boards today. The Sixers just don't rebound, and Embiid's just not a good rebounder, even though he puts up like 11 rebounds a game. Plus, it looked like I don't know how you live your life as a Sixers fan, because he looked awesome, and then he does like one of the most incredible plays I've seen in my life. It looks like he literally, his knee was going to like have to be taken to like amputated in the back, and then he comes back and then is still like really good, and they almost pull it out. And Brunson, hey, he's the only real creator on that team. I'm going to stick with my original pick with the Sixers, even though, I don't know, maybe Embiid just might be a mystery meat by the end of the season.
I think their whole matchup obviously has an asterisk because you have to wait. Like if his knee is swollen up after this game, then it's a wrap for them. And I think them losing today, I think, was their missed opportunity to win the series, right? You got the off-night shooting from Brunson. You got killed by late Josh Hart threes.
Oh, man.
Like those are the swing role player moments at home that shape a series. And I think had they been able to go on the road and steal, and listen, if they coming back, win game 2, everything I'm saying is irrelevant. But I think the first game is always the easiest game to steal, right? So I think now that they came up short, couldn't get a defensive rebound to save their life, like that's not going to change anytime soon. So I think barring injury, I'd say Knicks in 6.
Yeah, my original pick was Knicks in 7 just because Embiid, I didn't think he was going to be healthy. He very much did not look healthy after he tweaked his knee. So, yeah, I'm sticking with Knicks in 7. I just don't – I'm with you, Jay. I think we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. We're both like we think the Knicks are try-hard regular season team. Their half-court offense stinks. They get a lot of buckets in transition. But – the defensive rebounding against the Sixers, or the offensive rebounding rather, translated against the Sixers. So we'll see. But I think the Sixers are good for it. But I don't know how many Kyle Lowry games you get like that out of this series. But
thank God he's not on the Heat.
Yeah, I know, dude. Speaking of playoff risers, man, that dude's a fucking winner. But I'm sticking Knicks in 7.
Yeah. All right, Pacers Bucks, another hard one to pick. I'm just sticking with the Bucks. For some reason, I just think all the guys are coming back. That's, again, probably me protecting myself from getting my hopes up and being like, Embiid's injured, Jimmy Butler's out, and Giannis is out. So I'm just thinking Giannis is going to come back in like game 2, and if he plays, then they're going to win the series.
Greeny?
I'm going to say Bucks. I'm going to say Bucks in 7. Again, it's another team that is inexperienced. I know that they've destroyed them in their regular season matchup. I just think it's a different beast, and I'm weary of everybody all of a sudden thinking this is like an easy Pacers series. It's it never plays out that way. They also can't stop. They can't get a defensive stop to save their life. And I think if the Bucks can just find a way to play a lick of defense, next thing you know, Giannis is maybe back game 4. I think if they can find a way to at least win one of the first 2, or at least win one of the games in Indy, I see it going 7.
Okay, so sometimes there has to be a hero, someone willing to take a stand,
step
up and say "Viva la Revolution." Pacers in 7.
Okay.
Giannis is like, even if he comes back, like he's gonna be hurt. They can run you up and down the court. The Bucks want to play slow. The Pacers got to make their threes. I think they got 4 games where they make their threes and then bow out in the second round, and get swept. Yeah. But I mean, if Giannis was healthy, boom, I would definitely say Bucks in 6 or something like that. But they can steal a game or 2 before he's like totally back, and then you make some threes. All of a sudden, it's over. What happened? Halliburton's celebrating. Giannis is crying, and this is total hope casting, as the kids say. I just want this to happen, even though I don't think it's going to. So Pacers in 7.
If you're going on vibes, it's the Pacers. The Bucks have just been like such a disaster.
Right, that's the thing. There's this dark cloud over them, right? And I just think, I feel like their issues are more later round problems than early round, right? So I don't know. I respect their pedigree in a weird way. I don't know. Like it's just a different environment to when you've never been in it before and you're relying on guys. I mean, Siakam's obviously been there. He's won a ring, but I don't know. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt until I see otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Like we do it every year. We forget how different the playoffs is, and then we watch the first day of the playoffs. I'm like, this is like a different sport. Like it's just completely different.
Yeah. And also, tell me what Halliburton I'm getting. Am I getting November Halliburton, or am I getting April Halliburton?
Yep.
That matters.
Yep. West Suns Wolves. We saw game 1 today. Wolves just stood up, man. Wolves stood up.
Fascinating. At first I thought this was a bad matchup for them, right? They got killed during the regular season. Anthony Edwards might be a playoff riser. And if he's a playoff riser, then today was not an accident. I think it changes the dynamic of the series. I probably would have said, Wolves, or I probably would have said Suns in 7, but I think I might go Wolves in 6 after what we saw today.
This is classic Ant. He does this, dude. He goes insanely hot, and then he comes out of nowhere and has like a complete dump in his pants the next game. So he might have a good game. Like maybe he's just a playoff riser. He can keep it going. But like Ant is so up and down, and he's like 22. That's what happens when you have a 22-year-old superstar. But I think I picked Wolves in 7. I think I'd probably stick with that. Their defense is legitimate. They have playmaking. Like, I mean, I don't know if Cat's supposed to be back at some point. So
he was good today.
He played today. This is the game I missed. I did say that off the rip. This is the game I completely missed. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, Wolves in 7, and that definitely in that case.
Another vibes pick, and it's like, if you've gone off vibes, the Wolves have had a great year, and the Suns have just snuck in, even though they had those 3 wins against the Wolves. I'm flipping to Wolves. I loved what I saw today. I think Booker's and Beal are going to really struggle in this matchup. Like the Wolves defense is like,
well, they have the prototype of the same type of, when you think of who the Celtics struggle against, it's can you defend the wings? Can you make your threes? Do you have a good point guard who won't turn the ball over, right? And you have a guy in Ant that can take over and be the best player on any given night. So, they have the formula. I mean, it was them and the Celtics that didn't lose 3 games all year. I think they were the only 2 teams in the NBA all season. So I think they have that formula. It's just, is their best player ready to take the jump? Just like we've always were worried about young Tatum. Like if he's ready to take the leap that Tatum made, then the Wolves will make a deep run.
This to me for Ant is Tatum's bubble run, in where he took them to the conference finals, and Tatum was a year younger that year, but this is basically the same. Yep. All right, don't tell me the score of the Lakers Nuggets because I have avoided it so far, but I'm just taking Nuggets. I don't care what's happening in game 1. I think I saw a comment in the chat earlier that the Lakers were doing well here, but give me the Nuggets in whatever, but give me the Nuggets, Greeny.
I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I'd say Nuggets in 6. I just think their games were close all last year. So, it's not something where, I can see the score right now. It's actually, it's, okay. It's recovered a little bit. But I just think they're the champs. Until someone knocks them off, you got to give them, the respect. I just think it will not be as easy of a series, as quick of a series, just because you almost never see sweep. I feel like people think everything is going to be a sweep, and nothing is ever
never a sweep.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. As like sweeps are actually rare. Yeah, one of the closer sweeps ever, I think, with the Lakers Nuggets last year in the conference finals. Pretty similar to us against the Nets in 2022. So yeah, I got Nuggets in 6. Like, Jokic is going to do Jokic things. They're a better team, but I think the Lakers will definitely get a couple.
Yeah, and you're never going to get me to ever root for a Lake.
What are we doing? Shocking. The Celtics podcast picked the Nuggets. Even though everyone's trying to talk themselves into the Lakers maybe having a shot here, Jokic is just that ridiculous.
I just said they'd win a game, and I want to go take a shower. It's like, it feels great.
Yes, Mavs Clippers, another weird one with the injuries. It's quietly kind of broken nicely, not to get really way too far ahead of ourselves, but Nuggets playing the Lakers and then maybe the Wolves and then whoever comes out, as opposed to being that 1 seed where they would have got an easier first round matchup. But yeah, Mavs against a Kawhi, no one seems to know. I just don't think he's going to be able to make it through a series for me. This is just a health pick, and I think Luka and that team's just better than in years previous when the Clippers actually won those series. Luka's better, the team's better. Kyrie's on his best behavior. I think the Mavs are going to take that Clippers series. Spoony?
Yeah, I just it pains me to root for Kyrie or think Kyrie's going to win, but I think I'm with you, dude. I think the Kawhi stuff, who the hell knows, man? He's got a different injury every other day. I do think if you could guarantee me Kawhi, Paul George were going to be fully healthy and Harden were going to be fully healthy for that entire series, I'd probably take Clips in 7. But who knows? I think the Mavs floor is a lot higher than the Clippers. I think the Clippers have a higher ceiling, but I just don't trust them to hit that ceiling on a game-to-game basis. So I think the Mavs feel like a classic second round out to me. So I'd say Mavs in 6 maybe.
Yeah, I'll say this. This is the no more excuses Luka's playoff series, right? Like this is it. It's year 5, 6 for him. He's being talked about as MVP. You can't lose in the first round. You can't lose in the second round. Like at some point, he has to be held to the standard that everyone holds Jayson Tatum to as one of the best young players in the league. So, I don't love hearing that Kawhi's getting mystery knee injections the day before their game. That's not great. So if he comes back and is 90% Kawhi, I would probably say Dallas in 7. If he's hurt and isn't the same guy, I'd pick Mavs in 6, just because I think they solved their big man issue. They got Kawhi, playing with, his head on straight. Luka is, it's undeniable what his production is in the season that he's had. And I just think, if they can get their bench shooters, and I just feel like they are ready. They've gotten killed by the Clippers in both of their previous matchups. This is another one of those, can they beat their boogeyman series? This is the moment where Luka needs to establish himself as, one of the best players in the league. He can get over his playoff demons. To do that, I think they win pretty decisively, especially if Kawhi's not, ready to go.
Yeah.
Yep. Luka, it's time, man. It's all fun and games until you start getting knocked out
listen, everyone wants to tell me all these people are better than Jayson Tatum.
Yeah,
well, it's time for them to prove it and actually
exactly.
Preach, brother.
Exactly right, dude. Yeah, and
Jalen Brunson, you went 7 of 24 today. All right, well, if Tatum goes 7 of 24 tomorrow, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. He won't be going 7 for 24 tomorrow. I actually just got a pit in my stomach thinking about the playoffs starting tomorrow. It's terrifying. Thunder Pels. The last week couldn't have gone better for anybody than the Thunder. The fact that the Nuggets end up on the other side of the bracket, Zion goes down, and they get the Pelicans without Zion, as someone that could probably be a matchup problem with Chet. But without him, I think this one actually could be a sweep. But 4 or 5 for the Thunder, Greeny.
Yeah, I'd say 5 or 6. Just because I do believe in the Pelican wing defenders. I think when Herb Jones is locked in and they're causing chaos, I think they can steal 1 or 2. Just because, again, we're going to be dealing with a team that's never gone through this before. Right. Actually, both teams. Right. So both teams are so new to this environment. I feel like you have the higher range of variance where you could tell me the Thunder are going to be a machine and they're just going to, prove to be the team we saw all year. SGA is going to lead the way. But you could also tell me CJ McCollum's going to have 35. Brandon Ingram will show up and Herb Jones will shut down Jalen Williams. I just think, your gut says go with the team that was better all year. But this is one that it wouldn't shock me if the Thunder are the 1 or higher seed that loses their first round series, or they could win it in 4 or 5.
I'm pretty Pels brained. I like their team a lot for some reason. I feel like Ingram's offense translates to the playoffs really well because he likes to work in the mid range and he's so friggin' big that it's almost like KP as a wing where he can just kind of get that mid range shot off of anybody. But I just think the Thunder are kind of a well-oiled machine, one of the best half-court teams in the NBA on both sides of the ball, too, which I think is really important. So,
they're efficient. They don't take a lot of threes, but they shoot, I think, 38 or 39%.
Yeah. The threes they take, they make, and SGA, he's going to do his thing. I wonder if you put Herb on him almost. I don't. Yeah, so... but JV just has no place in this series to me.
That's
at all.
What worries me for them.
Yeah, it's a bad. I feel like the Pels with a different matchup could have won their first round series. I don't love this matchup for them, especially with Zion.
That's what it sucks. It sucks they can't go Zion at the 5 and really just
do some weird shit and see what happens. Yeah, so I do think the Pels will snag a game or 2. So I'll take OKC at 6.
There we go. Awesome. Well, Greeny, it's been a pleasure. Everybody in the chat, this is it. That's no more stress-free wins. No more playing the Wizards or Peyton Pritchard dominating for 35 minutes and dropping 35 points.
Well, you still might.
I mean, hey,
Sure, yeah.
please own another person. Please own me. I don't know any closing thoughts, Greeny. You wanna put out into the universe?
It has to be this. It has to be the year. It just has to be. Everything we've seen, every way they've approached it, like at some point they need to be rewarded for going about and doing things the right way, right? Like at some point you have to reward Brad Stevens for building this type of roster, right? Like things have just gone so well. It's either gonna go and finish it off, or we're gonna be dealing with a classic like something like beyond incomprehensible is going to happen, and it'll be the end of it. But I can't wait. I've been smiling for like all day. It's like a nervous coping mechanism because every dribble is going to be terrifying. It's just like there's no better way to live, but it's also the worst way to live.
Celtics in 5.
Celtics in 5. We're calling it.
Let's go.
Please, Celtics.
Please.
That's all. It's all we have left. We're gonna do our best to be analytical as the playoffs go along, but it's really just gonna come back to please.
I'm literally begging you.
on our knees, everybody in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. We're all terrified. We're gonna go through this together. It's gonna be the year. Until next time, let's go Celtics.
I love